Very good evening to you. Thanks for clicking on the VOGAN'S views on Europe for the 6th of January. And it looks as if we've got some pretty interesting developments going on over the next 5 or 6 days. In fact, you know, after a month and a half of very stormy conditions, that active, energetic atmosphere, and of course the jet stream has been pulling in those storms one after the other across the British Isles, Ireland and the mainland of Europe. Next week, it looks as if the models are in pretty good agreement of high pressure building in, retreating that storm track, that jet stream to the north, and of course Ireland, the UK and into western parts of the mainland of Europe. It looks as if we're going to be seeing very settled conditions, brighter conditions, and that will make a big change. That high pressure building in from the Atlantic, and it will be a welcome relief for many people, I'm sure, including myself. To be honest with you folks, I was actually as much as I'm enjoying this pattern, it is a remarkable meteorological situation that we've seen with the very active stormy conditions. It has been quite a turn though, I've noticed, and even fuel consumption has been quite remarkably increased, given the fact when you're driving into those strong gale force winds, it really does, of course, put more effort onto the truck and cars as well, burning more fuel. So we're going to all benefit from this, both by not getting soaked, not by getting battered by the wind, but of course on an economic side of things as well, it will be a welcome relief. And like I say, well, we've got milder conditions, more settled conditions into next week, and I'll show you that off the model in just a second. But certainly over the next, or should I say over the past few days, we've of course seen that very powerful system pushing through the UK, and of course that then pushed through the Low Countries, producing a pretty significant windstorm, heavy rain, and that then sunk through the Alpine region, producing more heavy snow for you know, the Swiss Alps, the Austrian Alps, and the North Italy Alps, and of course the French Alps. But as well as that, that wind event also triggered an avalanche in Switzerland, and then it tracked further south. As it tracked across the Alps, it then tapped into that milder, more you know, conducive environment of the Mediterranean, energized the system, producing very significant winds, heavy rain and mountain snow across Italy and the Balkans. And over the next few days, we're going to be seeing that system trek eastwards into the eastern Mediterranean, impacting the Turkey in a pretty significant way. But certainly we're seeing that trough of high pressure, or sorry, should I say trough of low pressure, dipping down, and it is also pulling in the coldest hour of the season to Scandinavia. So highs in Oslo, Stockholm and the Helsinki as well. We're seeing -2, -3 for daytime highs. We've not seen that this year so far. A lot of the reason, of course, has been it's been so Atlantic driven, so mild as well. And we are seeing the coldest hour of the season. But certainly that cold air is not going to hang around that long, to be honest with you. The pattern remains, you know, fairly mild across Europe. We're seeing bigger changes elsewhere, both across Asia, Eastern Asia, as well as North America as well. Very, very warm conditions yesterday across central portions of the United States. And but there is significant changes taking place in the upper levels of the atmosphere over the pole, and that is something I'm going to talk about in a video coming up shortly, talking about the longer range and what that means for us here in Europe. But let's have a quick look of the upper level pattern. I'm going to skip back to the current map, and you can see here the system, of course, now down across south central Europe, trekking towards Turkey. As it does so, it's been forcing that colder air out of the northwest. You can see the hint of blue here over northern parts of Scandinavia. But certainly highs, like I say, across Oslo, Stockholm and the Helsinki. They're the coldest of the season so far. And of course that wind making it feel a lot colder. Of course, into parts of the UK as well. It's been fairly cool as well. Particularly so yesterday and the day before, those winds pulling in from the northwest, making it feel quite biting, to say the least. I've certainly felt that wind chill over the past few days. But let's skip ahead, folks. By Sunday, we have another system, like I say, pushing through the UK. Rain, increased wind across mainly the northern half. But by Sunday, you can see the ridge of high pressure trying to take a foothold on Ireland and the UK. Looking through Monday into Tuesday, you can see a wee flirt there of cooler trying to get its way in, but it doesn't make it. Of course, it gets pushed out. High pressure then starting to really build into the UK by Wednesday. You can see here the ridge of high pressure. Notice how the cold air is starting to collect over the southern half of Greenland as well as the northwest Atlantic Ocean. Pay close attention to that, because despite the fact that we're going to be milder, much more settled across the UK by midweek, looking ahead Thursday, you can see here the trough starting to dig in, that colder air pushing southwards, forcing the building and the pumping of that ridge over the UK and Ireland into the western half of Europe as well. Of course, by daytime, reasonably mild, maybe even close to seasonal for this time of year. By nighttime, clear skies, light winds, that allows the radiational cooling to take place, dropping temperatures below freezing, and of course frost forms, ice forms, and that can have issues in itself. Looking by Friday here, notice the trough continuing to deepen down the south into the North Atlantic, and that ridge of high pressure really starts to pump northwards, covering a large chunk of western and central parts of Europe. By Saturday, the trough is starting to push closer and closer. That could be a significant change, both the weather system pushing in, wind, rain, and I think by Saturday into Sunday, as you can see the system pushing through, bang, very cold weather. If this plays out, we could be looking at the coldest weather of the season so far across the UK, and as well as that, an increased snow chance, even down at low levels. If this plays out, it's still quite a ways away. It's a week away. In fact, it's 8 days away. It might not materialise, but certainly it looks as if we've got milder conditions, settled conditions into next week, and by next weekend we're having to watch that trough that continues to deepen, draining that cold air out of Greenland as the week progresses. Of course, forcing the ridging and the pumping of that ridge over Britain, Ireland and the Western Europe. And then of course by Saturday into Sunday, bang, we're back into that cold air again. And I'll be curious to find out just how cold that air is by next weekend, if the model is anything to go by, of course. But I'm going to shoot another video hopefully shortly, explaining my ideas looking further afield across the hemisphere, because it's very important, folks, to outline and point out what's going on elsewhere in order to see the changes across our part of the world. Continue to stay tuned. I'll keep you up to date. Have a good evening, folks. Bye-bye.